No, I'm glad. No, fuck. Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
No worries.
Welcome to Trail Mix peeps. You be Rahms. That's the
Yeah,
guy.
that's me.
How'd you come up with that name?
Yeah.
My middle name, my middle name is Ramsey. So it was just kind of a play on that, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying. I mean, it's like my Arabic name, and I was kind of like looking to put that kind of influence into my music and my like solo stuff anyway. So it seemed kind of fitting.
Cool.
Yeah.
So whereabouts is your heritage?
My father's Libyan and my mother's Scottish, and I grew up in England and moved here when I was like 12. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
True.
That explains your I'd call it eclectic music, eclectic influences you hear in your music.
Yeah.
It works really fucking well, but no, that really explains it. Did you grow up doing music, or is it something you came into later in life?
I always kind of like learned instruments growing up. It was something my parents always encouraged me to do, but I never really like stuck with instruments. I kind of like floated around, and then it was only, I guess, when my brother, he was in a band. He got a guitar, and then I got a bass guitar, and we kind of like started jamming, and then that's kind of how I started doing my own music a bit more, or finding like my own kind of path. Then I got a guitar, I started writing music on a guitar, but all kind of self-taught. But yeah, I've always loved music. It wasn't like, I didn't have like the desire to pursue it as like a passion when I was younger, but as kind of getting older, I realized it would be a really cool life to live.
Yeah.
Because life can be shitty otherwise sometimes. So I was just like, fuck it. Let's give music a go.
Yeah, I think that's a great outlook. That's sort of how I look at it as well. It's just like the lifestyle, and I guess like the things you can take from it yourself and then give back as well. Being a musician is just, it's something that you can't really get from a lot of other industries or anything like that. But so was there like a defining moment when you realized that, okay, I'm going to pursue music, or was it sort of just like a gradual?
I guess there was like a moment when I was like 21. I was having like a conversation with Braden, who was in Boss Moxi. And we just kind of like looked at each other and was like, fuck it, like let's just do this. Like let's take it serious. Like let's actually try and start a band and try and make it music. And that kind of like, having having each other kind of like gives you a bit more confidence to kind of like get going with it. And yeah, that was kind of like a defining moment. But I guess from there, like the only times that I was like, would enjoy myself would be jamming or something music orientated anyway. So I guess I was naturally steering to that way, but
yeah, for sure.
Was taking that jump into going like, I want to do this and make a thing of it, was it scary? Because you kind of lose that sense of security that you might get from another job or something. Do you feel scared or anything like that?
No, it was kind of, I guess, liberating in the moment. I mean, the day-to-day reality of it is like a different thing, where it's like stability in income or stability in career or whatever. That's something I think you learn like later on, but you can't really have that thought at the start. Otherwise you'll never like go anywhere with it or like go forward. So, I think, that's more of like something you deal with day to day and year out, just how do you make this sustainable? How to make this, actually pay itself back or like, be self-funding. I think that's like the ultimate goal with it all.
Yeah, it's almost like the naivety of like a young mind helps you jump into it, and then once you're in there, you're kind of like, oh shit, I got to make this sustainable now.
Yeah, and like super naive at the start too, being like, we're gonna make music that like no one wants to listen to, but we're gonna make them listen to it and then make millions of dollars off it and like change the world. That's like where you start, and it's kind of like, I'm glad to not be like that anymore, but it's also yeah, you just got to find a balance of like,
Totally.
you know, if you're trying to make a career in it, then you got to make compromises and all this kind of stuff. And where, draw the line and where you want to make the compromises. But having fun is the main thing. And I think like, like you're saying before, like the lifestyle is like, it's a pretty enjoyable, fun lifestyle that you can like, people could see it and like, I don't know, you're kind of sharing it with them, even though they're not directly living it. Yeah. It's kind of cool.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's a nice, it's a good place to share emotion and share perspectives and I guess sort of, yeah. It's
So how's that play into, I guess, you becoming Rahms? Does that, because it's a different, you are in Boss Moxi and Rahms, doing solo stuff and band stuff. So kind of that expression, and how does that play into, I guess, both things you do? So starting with Rahms and then into Boss Moxi. If that makes sense.
Well, I guess, I mean, Rahms came out of like Boss Moxi. We took like a hiatus, and I guess at the time it was like breaking up. So, you know, everyone else went into bands, and there was lots of bands going on, but I kind of just didn't like really fit. Or not like I couldn't fit, but I just had this like exploration of music that I wanted to do myself, and that's where like Rahms started. And then Rahms kind of taught me a lot about like what I need skill-wise, or like what I need, where I need to be at if I want to be like a musician or a producer or someone who, as a solo person, can like make kind of like music and collaborate with people and share what I have to offer. And that's kind of why I went back to uni to do like music technology. Because I always thought that like my craft could use a few years of really honing and really just understanding why I wanted to make this music, or why I wanted to do music, and especially when it comes to like digital and doing it on a computer, or like producing on a computer. There's an endless amount of possibilities. So I needed to like find my own workflow in it all and build. Kind of, I don't know if that was a bit convoluted.
No.
But that's where I really started to kind of like get super into like music production and the back end of like mixing and recording and all that kind of stuff is when I like, because I guess up until that point with the band, it was always like, oh, this band's going to make it. This band's going to make it. And then when it broke up, it's just literally like, oh shit, I have nothing now.
Yeah, totally.
And, you know, that's when I was like, oh, well, like I'd already decided to take it seriously. So I got to make this work somehow. And by that point too, I'd already been like producing just in my spare time, like making beats and like messing around. I had a friend who's into techno production when we were in high school. So I'd always watch him on Logic, and that's kind of how, my like interest in music really kind of like, when I started to take it seriously, that's kind of the path I went down. And there was like a big point too. I went to this, like, it's called Audio Alchemy, and it's this retreat in Hawaii. It's like, and it's put on by a producer called Headflux and another one called Opalus, but it was kind of talking about music production and linking it to like, I guess the spiritual ideology of alchemy and like kind of finding meaning in your music production. And that was really eye-opening for me to just realize that people around the world thought about music the same way I did.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in like Brisbane, in the small town, like you can really, if you're trying to do things different or just even don't have that much of a name for yourself, it can be really hard to feel like you're getting heard or getting your voice out, or like, so
a little bit stuck almost.
And that's where I was, I guess, doing my own production too. And I was considering uni because it was like, well, at least, you know, because I wasn't making music for radio, all that kind of stuff. And still, you know, was just making music that I didn't even think was that good production wise. I just was still learning. So going to there, I learned a bunch of production techniques, but also, just this kind of like understanding that around the world, people still value music highly and see it as like a really important art form. And then also like giving personal meaning to why I'm doing it, you know what I mean? And like, you know, am I doing it for the likes, or am I doing it to make a career, or what am I doing it for? It made me really like challenge that. And that was pretty, once again, where I kind of like decided to take it more seriously and kind of jump into it a lot more.
So you went to this this retreat in Hawaii before you decided to jump into Mutech?
No, this was just before. This was like maybe October, I think, just before the start. So I'd already probably been accepted and applied for it. And the interesting thing about it too, at that point, was because at that point, like me and Braden hadn't really been making music. We were like still talking, but we weren't really making music. And then he was going to India with Alex and another friend of ours, we call Magic, and they were going to go write music in India. And anyway, just before he went there, anyway, the first day I was in Hawaii, I got this message from him being like, bro, we should start Boss Moxi again. And like, I was having this like awakening of like why I was doing music. And so it was kind of like meant to be.
Fuck yeah.
But that, like a lot of that's kind of been like the big motivators to keep doing it, or to keep like, trucking on even when it can be like difficult or challenging, especially through like current times, COVID.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the reason, I don't know, I keep going.
No, that's kind of interesting to me. Like, I didn't actually know that, and it's kind of cool to learn that. Got that cool. No, so there's Hawaii and then into uni. Tell us a bit about uni, because like me and you have done the same degree, and it's kind of a weirder degree where they try and juggle the technical aspect and the musical aspect. How did you, like, you can hear in your music how you've kind of interpreted it, but tell us a bit about how you've interpreted what you've learned in New Tech, and I guess tell me how that's worked with Tell Me Something, your new single. How does what you've learned influence that single?
Well, I started back in there. That single is essentially like my amalgamation of everything I had learned at uni, and the processes of, because I pretty much found myself like, was trying to get a job after uni, doing all that stuff. COVID hit, just had all this time, I'd bought some new stuff in my studio. So I was like, I guess I've got all this time to implement what I learned from uni. And so that was like the end result of actually getting to the point of an end song where I'm like, oh, I'm actually happy with like the production and the mix and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, starting uni, the big thing I was trying to get out of it was the mixing tricks, which I think probably most people are there for, like all the little hidden secrets and all those little tricks that will just, I don't have to think, I can just put that in and my productions will sound better. And I guess you never really got that until right at the end, which was an interesting thing, but it kind of like stripped it back and taught you like the basis of like how to view sound. And I guess that was the thing for me, understanding like sound visually almost. It was really like, the stuff I learned about mixing and stuff made me really actually be able to like visualize physically what the sound is doing through the two speakers. And I was always just trying to like, understand that more and understand, like I would always approach music making, or before that, I would just like classic guy putting all those plugins and just doing way too much to it all. And uni really kind of like, I don't know, it taught me so much, but I guess that was the big thing I really got out of it, was like the mixing and like really trying to implement how I can turn like VST instruments or like computer stuff into like solid sounding like a band, or like get that depth and dimension. And that was the biggest thing for me at uni, was learning, the depth and dimension.
Right, with all that kind of shit.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, how you can manipulate that, how you can like play with that through reverb, delays, all that kind of head-related transfer functions. That was the big thing for me that I really, really liked. Like before going in, I thought it would be like live performance, because I was doing some of that before I went to uni. But that it never really grabbed me too much, that side at uni, just because of the frameworks and stuff. But the mixing was always cool, and it was always so responsive when it was taught. Like, you would present music or you'd present something and then you'd go through that. And it just gave me like uni gave me a workflow. Essentially, like going back to what I was talking about before, like not really knowing how to get from like nothing or like a synth pad to a finished product in Ableton or Pro Tools. And that's what uni gave me, this kind of like, I knew when things were done, like when composition was done and mixing could begin, and learn how to separate those. And it just gave me a framework, and that's what has made it like even more enjoyable too, because now I have this framework. Now I know how to like go about it myself. It's super fun to like experiment and know when like things are done, or know when things are an idea, or I just understand it a bit more in that regard.
So like obviously you're mixing your own tracks. How do you find that process coming from like composition and then putting on like your mixing hat and then sort of coming at it that way? Or are you sort of mixing as you compose?
No, so I compose in Ableton, mix in Pro Tools.
Right.
And I have found that to be, a good way of being like, okay, so this is composition and it's done. Or like, I mean, this is over a while, a few attempts and then back and forth and stuff like that. But realizing like what's compositional and what's mixing, because I've done the separating, it's like, a lot more efficient now too. Like, I can just create all these like wacky sounds using reverbs or whatever and not really worry about the spaces they're creating, because, well, to a degree you are, but then when it comes to mixing, it's like a whole other thing. So I find it not super, but it makes me more productive. Like with the live set over the weekend, I played like an hour and a half of music, and that was a lot of stuff I'd written through COVID that wasn't completed or wasn't finished. So I was able to just be like, okay, this is it for Ableton. No more composition, bounce it out, go to Pro Tools. And then mixing, I have like a template, and it just becomes like quite easy when you're mixing a lot.
So with your live set, because I was at your live set on Saturday, and I noticed like a pretty sort of big difference between your performance and your single. So like, I guess like, with your performance, it's more like evolving. It's more of like a morphing together of different kind of ideas and stuff like that. And then your single was very much like a solidified piece of work.
It's having that separation between creativity and the analytical mindset. It's really cool.
So how do you go about like a song for release? Like what would differentiate your performance music from like a single that you're kind of looking to put out?
I mean that Tell Me Something About Yourself, the single I just put out, that was like written just on a piano, like as a whole song. And that was also at the time when I was at uni and I was learning, I guess, like gaining more confidence in my composition and like being able to compose something on a piano, say like on like a grand piano that had a uni, or just something acoustic, and then taking that into a realm where you start to kind of make it more electronic or make it less traditional, I guess, when it comes to like making music electronically compared to like with a band and stuff like that. I feel like composing it on a piano helped solidify it as an idea, as a song, a bit easier. And then comparing that to my live stuff, a lot of my live stuff is like loops, I guess. So it's like ideas that I have that never really taken them anywhere, never really go anywhere. Say maybe there's like a part A, part B, but a lot of it is loops, where something like I would release as a single, I feel like maybe I overthink composition a lot. So I always try to chuck in something at every point to make it seem interesting. So that would be where it differs, where live I don't normally do that, because I guess like there's the element of knowing that people aren't really paying that much attention to be like, oh, this is the same thing looping over and over again. But it also, it's like, I mean, you're playing live, so to demand so much attention from someone live, like it can be easier with like a big show, but if it's just a dude with a laptop and Ableton Push or something like that, people can lose interest really easy. So I feel like, those loops are okay. And then once again, it makes me I can look at the songs I have and see how people respond to them, and if it is worth building into another proper song idea, or like Yeah. And then sometimes jamming live, I'll come up with something and then be like, oh, this is where this song can go. Yeah. And so they're a lot more like raw, I guess, or like they're just unpolished versions of like actual songs.
That's cool.
With Boss Moxi, like, because it's quite a large band, are you part of the writing process at all in Boss Moxi?
Yeah, so we kind of like, it's kind of like everyone's kind of involved in the writing process with Moxi. Like we just went away recently to Plainlands, to a studio called The Barn out there, just to write. And it'd be the kind of thing where, you know, maybe we're having a break and someone walks in, starts playing piano, comes up with a chord progression, we'll go in, jam that, and we just record it, save that. Or you come up with a bass line, or say Braden, you know, will go away and come up with a chord progression or some lyrics or a melody like that, and then bring it to the group. And then it's kind of like each person can interpret it their own way and bring those parts. Yeah, so that's kind of how the writing process, it's kind of new too with so many people. We're trying to be really like inclusive, and you know, people have been in the band for like 10 years and other people have been in for 6 months, and so trying to change or evolve our writing process to make them feel welcome or make them feel like they have just as much say as, you know, someone who's been in there for a few years or whatever, you know, to what part they want to play and all that. So yeah, kind of collaborative effort.
Do you find that easier than writing by yourself, or has it got its own difficulties with it?
I guess easier, yeah, because you're only like focusing on one element, and the inspiration is around you, right? Like, you know, other people playing, they may hit a wrong note, or they hit a note that you're like, oh my God, I'm going to go down that road. And like, you know, you could take inspiration for that. So I guess in that regard, it's easier. Yeah, because when I do it by myself, I guess I'm not sure. I'm getting better, but not sure when it's done or when it's enough or like what to put in or where it's finished. Yeah. So, but then it's two different kind of things, I think, too. Like, yeah, because I can still jam by myself and come up with ideas and songs. Ideas can be formed quite quickly, but I guess it's then like finishing that song.
Yeah,
is a lot harder by yourself than if you've got like 3 or 4 other people who will like, hey, let's all go record it this weekend, you know.
Yeah,
and then it's done and dusted. But you're like, I'll do it, you know, this week sometime, and then next week, and it never ends up getting done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with your compositions, does it mostly come out of you just jamming with yourself?
Yeah, I mean, recently I have kind of been getting a lot more into like samples. So I'll start with a sample of like a song that I've been digging, or I guess generally like vocals at the moment. I'm finding it interesting, like the effect that vocals have on a song, especially composition, like to grab someone's attention. You know, humans hear another voice, they're like, ooh. And I also think too that if that voice is like sampled, it has more of an impact rather than, you know, me saying this thing. It's some old sounding lady saying it, or, you know, like that. And I feel like that
it's almost like a selective collaborative experience. Like you kind of get to choose the elements that you're collaborating with. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of, and go on.
Oh, well, yeah, you go on. I forgot what I was going to say there. Sorry.
It's kind of like I still see it as sort of a collaborative effort, but it's like, you're kind of dictating where, like what you're using to inspire you, I guess, and inform the rest of the composition.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I've kind of been at the moment. But I mean, just before I was just jamming on piano, some ideas, that I was trying to do some like movie composition. I'm doing some short film composition with Matt from uni. He's we're working on some stuff together. And I was just jamming stuff to piano, and then I was like trying to do it more acoustic, but playing these melodies. I was like, fuck, this would be cool if we just had like an electronic beat or like an actual beat underneath it rather than. So I don't know, maybe I might turn that into something other than a composition. But yeah, I just, once I get in the zone, I don't know, I guess I've been doing a lot of production. I don't find it too hard to like come up with an idea. Whether the idea is good or not is like another thing. But to come up with ideas, I feel like quite comfortable, and with something like Ableton, I feel like it's like super streamlined to actually just like bang out ideas. And but yeah, mainly starting from samples recently, and then building around that just because it's quick inspiration. And it's, I can't remember who it was, maybe someone like RJD2, some kind of producer. Yeah, he said that like samples allow you to start from a place you could never normally start. You know, I could start with the saxophone line. I can't play saxophone, but all of a sudden I've got like a saxophone melody that my song can start from. Or it's just like I'm kind of exploring that kind of way of production.
No, that's dope. I kind of want to go off topic a bit and go back to kind of your live stuff. I'm curious how, because the Brisbane music scene is a diverse one. Surprisingly, it's kind of, you look at what you can find, it's like, oh, I didn't know that could happen. I guess, like, what is that like for you? What is it like being Rahms in Brisbane? What is it like being Boss Moxi in Brisbane? How are both received by the community in Brisbane? And I guess, what are your views on being a musician in Brisbane and trying to branch out from Brisbane?
I think, okay. So the scene in Brisbane, look, it's growing, it's getting better. There's people who are like kind-hearted or like what's not the word? But there's people out there trying to do good things and trying to do, really start creating community and stuff. But I feel like as a town, it really, like, I feel like artists don't have the power here, or like people who make music don't have the power of music here. It's a lot to do with management. It's a lot to do with booking agents, all that kind of stuff. And if you're kind of more inclined to play that game, or be involved in that, then you're probably going to reap more of the benefits from the scene. So if you don't want to do that, then it's like, it can be kind of challenging. But at the end of the day, like, there is still like opportunities to do it here. Like, there's still venues out there. There's still people out there who will like give you a chance, but it is kind of more difficult. But I don't know if it's any more difficult than somewhere with a more established scene. I don't know. I've never been there. I imagine theirs is just like a bigger kettle or a bigger pool to play in, with more opportunities, or more like, because like people who generally make it in music here will leave. It's rare that they'll stay unless, I see a lot of jazz musicians playing around town, and it seems to be more like, if you're a jazz musician, it seems to be a pretty good city to make a living and stuff. But if you're trying to do more experimental stuff and weird stuff, people want that. But people also, I think, are quite comfortable with their lives in Brisbane. And to go invest themselves in your weird project, like, sometimes people like love the idea, but just, don't really care. Like, they've got their plans for the weekend, or, and I think like, I think that helps with, like, I think that's why there's a lot of people who make music here too, because it's like, with Centrelink and the lifestyle here, a lot of people can actually make a living and still work on music and still do music as like a hobby or a passion of theirs. And that's why I think you have such a diverse scene. But then, like, to make it sustainable, make a living out of it, to play the big gigs, get on the festivals, all that kind of stuff, it's like gatekeepered, and you don't even really want to be involved with it, I don't think. So it's been like tough and challenging, especially with Boss Moxi. But then at the end of the day, it's the only way. Like, I guess in hindsight, we wouldn't want to do it any other way. There are a few times that we've lost like money on the way, like with management and all that kind of stuff. But we've never felt like anyone could really like help us more than we can help ourselves. And I think if you've got that mentality, then Brisbane is like, you can do very well in the Brisbane music scene here. If you're hoping to make it easy, or like, which I kind of was at the start, I really thought, just could get like a quick, easy success or something like that, and that would make, but then, you sign music over the labels, and then they just earn all the money from it, or whatever the scenario is. So, yeah, I've kind of like been like, oh fuck, I guess like I'm gonna have to put in hard work and effort if I want this thing to go.
Yeah.
And I was a bit reluctant at the start, but yeah. So the scene's good. There's lots of good people, but there's also like a lot of shit that is put on pedestals, and it's very like heavily politicized at the moment. And I don't want to get political at all, but I think it's like, yeah, like there's just like a lot of political ideologies around music at the moment when it's like, hey, like I'm not saying to separate it completely, but it's like it's music, you know what I mean? It's like community and sharing and all that kind of stuff. Like I think we need to move more back towards that. As a like general whole, there's definitely people who do that and festivals that do that. But I think it's like a general consensus about music. Yeah. I think it's just too political. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's always sort of, and I think it's the same in a lot of places where there's kind of like a battle between, you know, like the art form and also like the business side of it. And also like, I guess people are trying to monopolize certain things. It's like, if you want to make it, you have to come through these avenues. And then there's also another force kind of pushing back against that to try and like liberate the scene, I guess, in a sense. And I like that you refer to Brisbane as a town and not a city. Like it's,
it feels like that.
Yeah, it very much kind of like it sheds more light, like a more distinct light on how kind of Brisbane operates in comparison to other cities or even, you know, Melbourne and stuff like that. And that the scene is still like, it's been there for a long time, but it's only sort of now, well, for me anyway, coming into its own and having, you know, all these different sort of aspects of the scene that are coming to fruition in their own sense.
Yeah.
And, I just really like the way that you sort of refer to it as a town, and it's like it just sort of solidifies the visual that is Brisbane.
Well, everyone knows everyone here, really. Like
exactly, yeah.
You go to a gig or you go join these kind of. I'm part of like a group of producers called Shoku, and you know through that I've kind of pretty much found most of Brisbane's music scene. You know, production. Be kind of based, and it's just interesting to see how like well connected everyone is. But then when it comes to community, I guess this is where it's like lacking, like the infrastructure is lacking in the sense that people think that they're going to get on Triple J to make a living or something like that, rather than being like, hey, like let's just band together and like I scratch your back, you scratch my back, and we can both do this and keep going if we like look out for each other. And I think that's an important thing too. If you're trying to make it in music in Brisbane, is finding that network of people to support you and you support them, and you know who offer you gigs and back and forth, or all that kind of just realizing you're not alone or like you're not against people, which I think a lot of times bands or people with management can be that way. Like, oh, we're not going to do that because it's I don't know why, but they just come up with stupid reasons to not.
I very much agree with you on that. And I think there's a lot of sort of like emerging, I guess, like music curation platforms and stuff like that are all trying to work together with independent artists and really kind of have that mutually beneficial experience where, you know, you have the benefit of reaching out to their audiences and then, you know, spreading those artists to other audiences that are interested and kind of, building your own sort of...
it's a self-made town more is moving in that direction. It's
and I guess like you see that in like the electronic scene in Brisbane over the last 5-ish years. There's a lot more parties going on now. I mean, there was lots of parties going on in the past, but I guess they were like more of an older crowd. When now you have like a lot of like young people, you know, 2021 putting on raves and hosting like full on raves, which is cool. Like, and there's like a whole culture now that's come out of like putting on little dance parties in the city somewhere. I mean, I know this has happened for like years, you know, last 10 years. I've been to a few like pop-up parties and renegade kind of like bush stuff things, but it seems to be kind of a mainstream thing now where like DJs and local acts are able to like play at these parties and warehouses, and I really like that. I'm just hoping it to move more into like the live scene, away from DJs, and maybe more into like live kind of music. That can like be in a party, not just like people sitting around going like, cool. Like you're doing it live, like a modular setup or something like that. Something that's actually welcoming to people who aren't like nerds about this kind of stuff. Or
sure.
But yeah, give it like a few years. I don't know. It's all Brisbane's. We've got a few new venues over the last like 5 years here, and I mean, this COVID thing's really kind of kicked it out. But yeah, we'll see. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's good. I hate to be that guy, but I think that'd be about time.
Cool.
Let's wrap it up with one more.
Yeah, what you got?
Just like a novelty question. So who would be? So are you? First of all, like, are you looking to collaborate as Rahms with any kind of artists, any local artists, or you sort of?
Yeah, I mean, always kind of open to collaborating. I hit up a guy called Black Mannequin. He's a friend of mine, Eddie. To like do a remix of one of his tracks. I think he's going to do a remix of one of mine.
Okay.
Through like Pocket Market as well, like.
Yeah, okay.
Always open to kind of like collaborate on ideas with those guys. Same with Shoku. Like we're doing this, it's cool. We're calling like a beat retreat, and we're going away for the weekend. It's kind of like a test thing to maybe try and build it into like a bigger community thing. But you go away for the weekend. It's similar to what I did in Hawaii, right? You go away and just focus on music production and kind of make it the emphasis for the weekend. So people look at it and go, oh, people actually take this seriously as well. And so in that one, we're thinking of doing like someone comes up with like a 16-bar loop, and then everyone has to do another 16-bar loop, and then you kind of put it into a song. So it's like one song, but it's like 6 or 7 people who have done a 16-bar loop together. So I guess collaborating like that. But yeah, I'm always down to kind of collaborate, and not just musicians either. Like visual artists, projectionists, all that kind of stuff. It's whatever can get my hands on, it'd be cool.
Yeah. So that kind of brings it into the novelty realm. Like, who would be your dream
collaborator?
Yeah, dream collaboration, like dead or alive, like any corner of the globe.
Oh yeah. Well, that's huge. I guess like I when you said that, I realistically thought, or not even realistically, I follow this guy in Berlin. He's called like Bleem. I don't know. He's a touch design. He uses touch design, which is like a visualizer program, and he does these tutorials online. But he just does these simple, cool little animations or like touch designer patches that I just want to kind of like reach out and be like, hey man, like you want to do a music video or something like that, to be like, I guess, the high end of like what I would love to do. I went and saw Flying Lotus at the start of the year when he brought that like 3D show. Yeah. Something like that where it's just, it's like a stimulation overload.
Sensory experience. Like, yeah, totally.
Okay.
And that's even stuff we're trying to do with Moxi as well. Try and make it just like with dancers and performers and all that kind of stuff, like a circus almost.
Yeah. And how it rolls in with the graphic novel and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it would be cool to like, have it like fully acted out while you're playing, a musical thing where the band's in the pit and it's fully acted out, and there's people all through the crowd and there's actors everywhere, but you don't know they're actors, and, there's clothing. Everyone's got to wear special clothes, and I don't know, just you can get ridiculous, but make it an experience and like,
I think that's
make it something different.
I think that's where sort of, the live experience is definitely moving towards. It's kind of like moving away from just the, just like there are a few artists that are trying to push that. And it's like, it's moving away from the pure like sonic experience and making it more of a, just like a sensory kind of thing.
I've always thought like the future of like albums is going to be like a full VR experience where you sit down, and something like with Moxi comic book, like this story plays out all around you in this VR experience, and you're watching it while listening to it, and it's like and you're just plugged into the matrix like It's just like
Sure.
just loving every minute of it.
So what was that artist's name again? The guy that you wanted to collaborate with, or have another go at?
Yeah, I'll get up on. It's like here we go. Lime. Oh, it's called Electronaut. So it's like ELEKKTRONAUT. That's his Instagram, and it's like Bleem Skeeps.
Well,
I don't know.
Bleem Skeeps.
It's like
you heard it here first. Like,
if you go like touch designer tutorials on YouTube and kind of think of Bleem Skeeps, you'll see his name there.
yeah,
It's like his last name's like TSCHEPE.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. How do you say that?
German.
Skeeps.
Well, yeah. You've got a potential collaborator here. Bleem
Yeah.
you heard it here, like
It has ruined like all chances. But,
yeah, right.
I apologize.
We're trying to cross promote, but we're doing a terrible job.
No, we're doing all right. No, but fuck. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man.
No worries. It's been fun.
You want to drop anything real quick?
I'm probably releasing a song in like a month-ish time. I just got it back from mastering, so I'm going to try and do like the whole like playlist bullshit, send it around, see if I can on blogs. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got at the moment.
So October, are you looking?
Yeah, I was looking at the end of September, but I got it back late for mastering, so
Cool.
probably it's like first week of October.
Keep an eye. Keep an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep an eye.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I've got some good responses from people, so I'm
Nice.
excited to release it.
Fuck yeah.
Looking forward to it, man.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
cool.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining me and Mickey.
Yeah.
No worries. Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Catch you around.
Until next time.
See yous.